Only Murders in the Building is an American mystery comedy drama television series created by Steve Martin and John Hoffman. The 10-episode first season premiered on Hulu in August 2021. The plot follows three strangers played by Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, with a shared interest in true crime podcasts who join together to investigate a death in the apartment building they all live in. The series has received critical acclaim for its comedic approach to crime fiction, as well as the performances and chemistry among the lead performers. In the first season, after a suspicious death in their affluent Upper West Side apartment building, the three neighbors start their own podcast about their investigation. In the second season, which premiered in June 2022, the trio themselves become suspects in the bloody murder of another building resident. The series has received numerous accolades, including nominations for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Comedy Series and for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series for Martin and Short. In July 2022, the series was renewed for a third season. Cast and characters. Main. Steve Martin as Charles Hayden Savage, a semi-retired actor who was the star of the popular 1990s detective drama TV series Brazos. He lives in 14C at the Arconia. Martin Short as Oliver Putnam, an ambitious but financially struggling Broadway director who spawns the idea of the podcast and becomes its director. He lives in 10D at the Arconia. Selena Gomez as Mabel Mora, a young artist who lives in 12E at the Arconia, a refurnished unit that she is renovating for her aunt and who was friends with the first season's murder victim, Tim Kono, through her childhood and teenage years. Madeline Valencia and Caroline Valencia portray young Mabel. Aaron Dominguez as Oscar Torres, a friend of Mabel and Tim who was wrongly convicted of the murder of their friend Zoe 10 years earlier and recently released from prison. Amy Ryan as Jan Bellows, a professional bassoonist who lives in 6A at the Arconia and starts dating Charles. Cara Delevingne as Alice Banks, Mabel's love interest who works at an art studio called Third Arm Gallery. Recurring. Vanessa Aspalaga as Ursula, the Arconia's building manager. Julian Sahi as Tim Kono, a resident of 9A at the Arconia who dies in the first episode. The mysterious circumstances surrounding his death spur Charles, Oliver, and Mabel to do their own investigation. Tina Fey as Cinda Kenning, the host of the true crime podcast All Is Not Okay in Oklahoma, a parody of Sarah Koenig. Adina Verson as Poppy White, the ambitious but abused assistant of Cinda. Ryan Broussard as Will Putnam, Oliver's son. Malik Pancholi as Arnav, Charles's next-door neighbor, an Arconia resident in apartment 14F. Jackie Hoffman as Uma Heller, an Arconia resident in apartment 3F. Jane Howdeshell as Bunny Folger, the iron-fisted board president of the Arconia and resident in 12A. Bunny appears in flashbacks in Season 2. Howdeshell also voices Mrs. Gambolini, Bunny's pet parrot who was left to Oliver in her will. Divine Joy Randolph as Detective Williams, a detective on the Kono murder who initially closed the case but becomes interested again after her wife starts listening to the podcast. Nathan Lane as Teddy Demas, an Arconia resident in apartment 6B, deli chain owner, an old friend and patron of Oliver's, who agrees to sponsor the podcast. James Caverly as Theo Demas, Teddy Demas's son who is deaf and also lives in apartment 6B. Michael Cyril Creighton as Howard Morris, a resident in Arconia apartment 3C and cat lover, whose cat Evelyn died the same night as Tim Kono. Zainab Ya as Ndidi Idoko, an Arconia resident in apartment 9B, Tim Kono's next-door neighbor who looks forward to annexing his apartment. Russell G. Jones as Dr. Grover Stanley, an Arconia resident in apartment 6C who is a therapist. Jabuki Young White, Daniel Orsks, Ali Stroker, and Orson Hong as Sam, Marv, Paulette and Grant, enthusiastic fans of the Only Murders in the Building podcast. Olivia Race as Zoe Cassidy, a friend of Mabel, Tim, and Oscar who died 10 years ago after falling from the roof of the Arconia. Teddy Kalyaka as Lester, the doorman at the Arconia. Zoe Colletti as Lucy, the teenage daughter of Charles's ex-girlfriend, with whom Charles has a tenuous father-daughter relationship. Michael Rappaport as Detective Krebs, a police detective on Bunny's murder. Christine Ko as Nina Lynn, Bunny's protégé and the Arconia's new board president. Ariel Schaefer as Yvonne, a server at Bunny's regular diner. Paul Rudd as Ben Glenroy, a theater actor who dies while performing on stage. Guest: Adrienne Lennox as Roberta, Oliver's ex-wife. Sting as a fictionalized version of himself, an Arconia resident. Roy Wood Jr. and Jacob Ming Trent as Vaughn and Lucian, hosts of a horticulture podcast who give Charles and Oliver a ride. Jimmy Fallon as himself. Mandy Gonzalez as Sylvia Mora, Mabel's mother. Jane Lynch as Saz Pataki, Charles's stunt double. Amy Schumer as a fictionalized version of herself. She moves into Sting's former apartment and proposes a TV series to Oliver based on their podcast. Shirley MacLaine as Rose Cooper, Charles's father's lover and painter, who pretended to be Bunny's mother, Leonora Folger. Andrea Martin as Joy, Charles's longtime makeup artist and love interest. Mark Consuelos as Mabel's late father. Episodes: Season 1. Season 2. Production. Development. In January 2020, it was announced that Steve Martin and Martin Short would star in an untitled Hulu series, created by Martin and John Hoffman, with Martin, Short, and Hoffman as executive producers, alongside Dan Fogelman, with 20th Television serving as the studio. On September 14, 2021, Hulu renewed the series for a second season. On July 11, 2022, the series was renewed for a third season. Casting. Alongside the initial announcement, it was announced Martin and Short would star in the series. In August 2020, Selena Gomez joined the cast and also serves as an executive producer. In November 2020, Aaron Dominguez joined the cast in a series regular role. In January 2021, Amy Ryan joined the cast in a series regular role and Nathan Lane joined the cast in a recurring role. On December 1, 2021, it was reported that Cara Delevingne joined the cast as a series regular for the second season. On January 12, 2022, Short announced that Shirley MacLaine and Amy Schumer were cast to guest star for the second season. On February 11, 2022, Michael Rappaport joined the cast in a recurring role for the second season. On October 25, 2022, Jesse Williams was cast in a recurring capacity for the third season. Filming. Principal photography for the first season began on December 3, 2020, in New York City, and concluded in April 2021. The Belnord was used for exterior shots of the Arconia. Filming of the second season began on December 1, 2021. Filming for the third season is set to begin in January 2023. Music. A digital album for the score was released on August 27, 2021, 4 days before the series debut. On July 15, 2022, the original song that was played briefly in the Season 2 episode Here's Looking at You, Angel and Flip Flops, was released online. It was performed by Steve Martin as his character Charles Hayden Savage and written by Martin and Kirker Butler, with Paul Schaefer as producer. An album for Season 2 was released on August 12, 2022. Release. Only Murders in the Building premiered on August 31, 2021, on Hulu. Internationally, the series premiered on the same day on Disney and under the dedicated streaming hub Star, as an original series, and on Star and in Latin America. Disney and Hotstar released the series in select territories on September 3, 2021. On Disney+, Disney and Hotstar, and Star+, only Murders in the Building episodes were scheduled to debut on a weekly basis. The second season premiered on June 28, 2022. Reception. Audience viewership. On September 3, 2021, it was reported that Only Murders in the Building set a record for the most watched comedy premiere in Hulu history. On October 28, 2021, Hulu Originals president Craig Erwich said in an interview with Vulture that the show had become the most watched comedy ever on Hulu by a good measure. In the same article, Vulture reported that, according to Parrot Analytics, the show went from having about 16 times the audience demand in the US as an average show when it debuted on August 31 to generating 37 times typical demand by the time the season 1 finale dropped on October 19. This meant that the day after the finale the show ranked as high as 14th on the list of most in-demand shows in the US and signaled a massive 135% growth rate that, according to Erwich, is mainly attributable to word of mouth. According to the streaming aggregator Just Watch, Only Murders in the Building was the most streamed TV series across all US platforms during the week ending October 24, 2021, and second during the week ending October 31, 2021. According to Parrot Analytics, which looks at consumer engagement in consumer research, streaming, downloads, and on social media, Only Murders in the Building was the third most in-demand streaming original series in the US during the week of August 13 to 19, 2022, as well as during the week of August 20 to 26. According to Wikimedia, it was the most streamed TV series across all US platforms during the week ending August 7, 2022, and during the week of August 28. According to the streaming aggregator Just Watch, it was the third most streamed TV series across all US platforms during the week ending July 3, 2022. Critical response. For the first season, review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reported a 100% approval rating with an average rating of 0.8, based on 105 critic reviews. The website's critics' consensus reads, "Only Murders in the Building's silly approach to true crime obsessives is at once hilarious and insightful, thanks in large part to its extremely charming central trio." Metacritic gave the first season a weighted average score of 76 out of 100 based on 34 critic reviews, indicating generally favorable reviews. Kristen Baldwin of Entertainment Weekly gave the first season a B grade and wrote, "Only Murders delivers above average laughs, a clever mystery, and a starry cast. But it's hard to shake the feeling that the show missed an opportunity to be something special." Reviewing for Rolling Stone, Alan Sepinwall gave a rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars and said, "The series soon turns out to be like The Princess Bride, Galaxy Quest, or Jane the Virgin, that rare and wonderful thing, the parody that also offers a great example of the genuine article." For the second season, Rotten Tomatoes reported a 98% approval rating with an average rating of 8.05/10, based on 109 critic reviews. The website's critics' consensus states, "Only Murders in the Building gets a new lease on life with a naughtier sophomore outing that retains the series' core charm and wit." Metacritic gave the second season a weighted average score of 79 out of 100 based on 25 critic reviews, indicating generally favorable reviews.